Welcome to Courage on the Rocks, a space where stories flow like a good glass of whiskey. We're two best friends pulling back the curtain on all the conversations that usually happen behind closed doors.
From grief and love to dating, friendship, motherhood, and all the chaos of life in your 30s. We're diving into it all with honesty, humor, and a splash of courage.
This podcast is about real stories, ours, yours, and the incredible people we'll meet along the way. Whether you're here for inspiration, a fresh perspective, or just to hear from someone who gets it, we're glad you're with us.
So grab your favorite drink, hit play, and join us as we navigate the highs, the lows, and everything in between, one episode at a time.
It's gorgeous. Did you smell this? You have to smell that. Oh, shit. You're like, oh, wait, actually. Yeah.
Chris did good.
No.
What was that for?
Just because.
Oh, I like just because flowers.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yep.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. To another episode.
I think we're past saying this is episode.
Right.
Because who knows anymore?
I don't know.
And who's got the time?
Who can count?
Well, if you're showing up, we love you and we appreciate you.
Yes.
And
Welcome to Courage on the Rocks.
welcome to Courage on the Rocks, where we find courage.
Yeah.
Face the day.
Yeah. And having conversations.
Having conversations.
And sharing our side of the story for you today.
Yeah.
So this is a follow-up on
Part
part two. So if you haven't seen part one, please go back and listen to part one. Watch part one because I think you get better context in which all of our stories.
Hop in. Don't cut the line. Don't do that. You're not going to know what's going on.
You'll be wondering why do they have Takis and sour Skittles over here? What are they? We explained it all in episode 1. For anxiety. So we have our whiskey and tea again. And our sour candies and Takis as well.
Yeah. And my tongue's already a little fuzzy from the amount of Skittles that I've had so far.
Yeah. I think you kind of just need a little awakening before we have this deep conversation.
Yeah.
I do want to start saying I have to thank Jorge for introducing me to whiskey because I was not ever a whiskey drinker. And I think one time when I came over to your guys' house, he was like, Liana, stop being a bitch and just drink it. And I was like, okay. And then, okay.
But can I be a little bit?
I know, right? I'm like, I need the Coke with it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have it with a Coke?
100%.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you just drink it straight. And
I know. I wasn't a big drinker, but vodka. I think I preferred vodka, but.
Yeah. But now it's,
the whiskey is where it's at.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste. I like it.
It is an acquired taste. So we're drinking whiskey. We got our hot, spicy / sour therapy.
We'll be popping those.
Coping mechanisms here.
Yes.
We're gonna finish part 2.
Yeah.
We're gonna start part 2.
We're gonna start part 2. This is how we're starting right now.
Not procrastinate and go.
So we ended the previous episode with him, with Jorge officially making it to San Francisco.
Yes.
And the turmoil with that and the chaos of all that.
The chaos of that. So,
you get to San Francisco from the airport to the hospital. What was that? I mean, from the minute you stepped foot into the hospital, what was that like for you?
It was like being I felt like a foreigner, and I felt like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And just trusting people tell me where to go, where to walk. They were just grabbing my hand and guiding me. I just almost like a zombie, not really understanding what was happening. I know where I'm at, not quite realizing, not just realizing, but I'm still in shock. So when you're in deep, deep shock, you're not processing well by any means.
Oh yeah.
And people just kind of have to guide you in directions and be very clear on what's happening and tell you where to wait. And so I just remember he gets brought into like neuro ICU, and they tell me they're going to immediately like prep him, and then he's going to go into surgery.
Yeah.
And I was going to get a call from the surgeon, and then they showed me where to go and sit.
Yeah.
Which is so there was this kind of like dark waiting room. And I just kind of hopped in there, and it just so happened that almost like immediately I had some other people show up.
Yeah.
Like even like thinking back on it, like it's so hard to remember like who was in there, like who was there very first. Like,
Yeah.
the very first people there.
But was there ever a time when it was just like by yourself?
I mean, we were talking about just very few minutes, because it took so long for us to get there that everyone had driven over. So, it was everyone who was at Doctor's Hospital with me originally.
Yeah.
They just got in their cars and then just drove over to UCSF.
Yeah.
So that was the main coach. So the other coach he coached with, and then their team manager and his brothers. And I remember like it's such a blur after that. I remember you showed up, I don't even know what day.
Yeah.
I don't even know how you knew. How did you find out?
I woke up Thursday morning from a text from Giovanni.
From Giovanni?
Yeah, from Giovanni. He was the first one that reached out to me, and it was Thursday super early. He was like, "Hey, have you been updated about what's going on with Jorge?"
Yeah.
And I was like, called him immediately because Giovanni and I don't communicate like that unless it's like super urgent. I called him right away and I was like, "What is going on?" And he was saying he was taken to Emmanuel, then he was taken to doctors, and then he's in San Francisco right now, and he's getting brain surgery. And I was like, it took me, like my brain heard it, but then like my heart didn't feel it. You know, like I just like, okay, logic saying that he went there having surgery, and I was like, okay, so what does that mean? What like processing it? Like what the next steps? What are we doing? And he was saying, I'm gonna go to San Francisco now. That's today. And I literally called my principal and said, I have a family emergency. I need a sub. So we got a sub, hopped in the car with Giovanni, and we drove to San Francisco that morning. And then we got there. Yeah. And then we were, and I know he had gotten the message, I think it must have been late Wednesday night, where his brother, Jorge's brothers had sent out to the boys, his crew, saying like what was going on. And I think that's when everyone was like, okay, now this is serious. So we drove up Thursday morning, got there, and just like, I think he and I, from our relationship with you and Jorge, he and I just assessed the room to see what was going on, what's happening, what do people need, because it's in events like this, and it's funny. It's not funny, but it's also like it's odd because like you see these in movies and shows. You see this like, and before Jorge, I had watched Grey's Anatomy and like thought nothing of it in these emergent situation, and just like these doctors doing their job and then go living their life and happily ever after kind of situation. But like it didn't occur to me the family side of it. Like they don't highlight that. They don't highlight the hours of like no information and the hours of like what families are going through in that time. They just show like the medical thing and that's it, you know? So in my head, I was like, holy shit, like visiting room, family room, like just learning all of that language and like what people are saying. So when we got there, we're just like, okay, what are we doing? What do we need to help fix right now? And what information are we given? So I think that's what we tackled right away when we got there.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that. I remember you guys showing up. There was a point where before everyone got there, like no one really knew anything besides like immediate, like Jorge's mom wasn't even there. Like she was in Vegas, like, and like they had to call their mom and tell her what happened. And she had to sit in like a 6-hour, 8-hour just 8 hours in a car trying to get to San Francisco, hoping that her son would be alive, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are things that, like, every single person who got that news was like, it's devastating and it's incredibly painful, and it's not like something small. There were literally so many people who were just like hit hard with that.
Oh yeah, I remember like that drive up there with Giovanni and his sister as well. It was just the amount of like quiet and just so confused about what was happening. I think for all of us, we're like, and our brains were like, no, this is not possible. Like, this is not our life. This cannot be it. You know? So like the hour and a half to 2 hours to drive there, we're just like, no, we're gonna get there. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be okay. It's like positive thinking, positive pray, literally praying the every minute of going there and just thinking like, okay, when we get there, it will be answered. It will be, we will be healed. And
we're
like,
gonna figure it out.
we're gonna figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Before you guys had gotten there, like, it was just like the immediate people who were like with us from the beginning, who saw it happen, who met me at the hospital, who drove to San Francisco. And there was a point where like he was in for surgery, and someone, I think it was Dina, had already started a GoFundMe page, right?
Yeah.
But she didn't know if she had asked because nothing was like said yet, right? And I kind of like had this moment of like, nobody knows what's happening, and like I don't have capacity to tell people what's happening. I just didn't. All I did was send a text to my immediate group chat, family chat, right? And so then I was like, okay. I ended up doing a Facebook post on it, and I was just asking for prayers, like saying like, this is what happened. Just please, like, we'll take any prayers that like people are willing to give, you know?
Yeah.
And that was my way of sharing that out, because there was no other way I could feasibly.
Yeah, you do not have a bandwidth to do that. It is not.
No.
I think, yeah, it's interesting coming from your perspective as the wife of all of this. Like, no, you should not be responsible to be communicating. That is not.
No.
You don't have the bandwidth to do something like that.
I didn't. His brothers were really good at it, so they immediately, when it was like, they got the okay from me, then they were just on the phone for what felt like hours, just calling friends, calling family,
calling everyone that like he had such an impact with, and like he had that really strong relationship with everyone.
Yeah, he really did, and that was like this really beautiful, unbelievably beautiful piece to the 5 days that we were there. But it also comes with like also a lot of pain. And we talk a lot about like holding two feelings at once, being in two spaces at once, like
holding space for both.
Holding space for both, and like there's a piece of me that's like, oh my God, the gratitude I have for the community that came through for us, and what it did for us, and just how exceptionally beautiful and loving and just unbelievably amazing, right?
Yeah.
Also paired with so much anger, of literally being put in like the deepest, darkest moment of my life, and then being put on display. Every single moment I was in there, I was on display for so many people. And I hated that. I hated that I couldn't have the space I needed to feel what I needed. When I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I want to lose my fucking shit. But there's literally 50 people standing there watching me, watching my every move, staring at me. Like,
yeah, I think gauging also like, oh, how is she gonna react? How do we act around her?
God.
Like, what do we do? You know?
Yeah. So he had once people found out, people obviously wanted to come, and it was the point where like, okay, we needed to say in my head, it was people should have an opportunity to say goodbye, right? And so, like, he had gone into surgery. He had gone out. It was never all right, we think this is going to be great, you know? There's hope here and blah, blah, blah. It was never that.
Yeah.
It was a lot of denial, right?
We're going to try.
We're going to try. Yeah, we're going to try.
This is a Hail Mary.
This is a Hail Mary. We'll see if he progresses. Pretty quickly, like, I knew that he wasn't going to. Like, it was very clear for me what situation we were in. His family was not the same. And it was very much like they weren't willing to walk away. And I'm not saying that as if I wasn't willing to walk away. But I think I was able to sit in the reality quicker than they were able to. And I think that's very much still the case today, right? So we started allowing people to come up and to say goodbye, and I don't think I like quite understood the gravity of that, which like on one hand, I didn't have to do that.
Not at all.
And I think that says a lot about the space that I let people enter into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think for you guys realizing, and I think for you, you're like, these are my moments. This is it. This is all the moment that like on this planet, Leo, me, and Jorge will be in the same room.
Exactly.
Like, and to share that space, to gift that to other people, to have that opportunity for them to say their piece and their goodbye. I mean, that's time you won't ever give back. But you gifted that time to other people. You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of like me gifting is also, I'm giving you this time, but I'm adding weight to myself, right? Like I'm gifting this, but I'm going to hold on to this burden, right? And like throughout this entire process, not just in the hospital, but ever since, it's like I'm going to hold on to this so other people can be okay, right? Because I know I can hold that way, but I know what it's going to do to them if I hand that over. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like what you're talking about is like, that is it's an example of that, right?
Yeah.
I gifted this time, and it was 100% out of consequence to myself. Like I lost time. Like that was a loss. I wasn't winning anything by that. But it was my way of also like honoring him and like
your
the people
sacrifice.
who were there. It was a sacrifice. And eventually Leo ended up coming over because I realized he needed to.
At what point did you realize, like, I know like we were talking about that Thursday, Friday of you guys being there in that room, getting that news and getting the information, like, we'll just wait and see what happens. At what point were you like, Leo needs to be here, let's bring back the kids, let's bring the kids in?
So it was after his surgery. They cleaned him up, they let me go in there, and I think someone had like, I don't know what had happened, but I had spoken to the nurse or the doctor, and they were like very clear with me, right, about what to expect, which was his inevitable death, right? That's a conversation I got solo as wife. No one else was in that room with me. And I remember getting that information and walking out. And I remember like looking, the first person there was the head coach. And I remember telling him like, look, he's not going to make it, right? Like, this is what they just said. He's going to die, right? And I remember the head coach was like, took it in, and, you know, was trying not to cry. And he, like, took off his necklace and he put it around me. And he said, you know, every time I've been in a really bad situation, like, this has always, like, got me through. And, like, it's going to be okay. And I remember walking away and I saw my sister and I just went up to her and I told her same thing. Like, I honestly just went up to her and, like, just grabbed her and just started sobbing. Because it was the first moment where, like, was in a space that I can actually, like, cry. But also I had to realize that he was going to die. And there was nothing I can do about it, you know? But that was the reality that I was in. And that wasn't going to change.
Yeah.
You know? And then that was when I was like, okay, so, like, I need to figure out how to have these conversations with his brothers. Yeah. And I need to get my son up here so he can have whatever last final moments left with his dad.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to, you know, having this conversation with his brothers, and they were just like, no, like, I have hope. They were so like, no, we're gonna figure it out. He's gonna be okay. I have hope. And it was their way of, like, they could not at all come to terms with, like, we're done. And I didn't think we were done. I was just for actually trusting the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also a way for their brain to protect what was it?
Yeah.
They live in this, like, they lived in that denial phase for much longer.
Yeah.
But it was a way that their brain couldn't even comprehend what their body and their eyes were seeing and feeling in that moment.
And that was like everyone who came. So, like, we were there for 4 days. We left on the 5th day. And everyone, there were about 50 people every day, just rotating in and out, coming back every single day. And they would just, like, line the halls, right? Yeah. So they would fill the waiting room that we had, which would fit about, like, 15 people. And then they would just line the halls.
Yeah.
The
hospital was so accommodating to that.
They were.
You know,
they were.
I was very touched with how they didn't know how you were related to Jorge, but they knew that, like, if you were there, you had a reason. There's a reason why you were there. So, like, they were very accommodating with the amount of people going in and out. They were checking in on you guys. Like,
they were, I mean, when it comes to, like, their staff and, like, their doctors, like, there's a reason why they're, like, the best in the world. Like, like, there was never once where, like, I was not taken care of by them, even to the point of, like, have you had food today? Have you drank any water? Like, but also, like, they know how painful it is. Like, I can't even imagine, like, having their job.
No.
And seeing that every day, and, like, seeing versions of me. You know, versions of a Leo, right?
And having to witness something like that on a daily basis, that must hurt. That must, like, that takes a type of person to be able to go through that.
And then to care, like, to care so deeply. Like, on the last day, they gifted Leo a book, and it was, they had all written in it. So it was, like, probably 15 nurses. And they all wrote these big, beautiful, amazing things about how amazing his dad must have been to have all these people here who loved him, and how, you know, great of a dad he must have been, and, like, how much of an honor it was to care for him. And they were just amazing.
I want to go back to what you had said, because, like, I feel like my brain, my heart and my brain is, you know, like, processing all this information, because, like, as your friend who was there in those moments and, like, witnessing and seeing all that and listening to it now, it just, like, it gives a new perspective as well. But the moment when you were talking about having to go up to your sister and saying this news that like you got from your doctor, like for me as someone to hear that, and then like you taking the split second to, you know, like having to regulate your body and your emotion so you can turn around and make these other difficult conversation and decisions, like how it hurts, it breaks my heart to think that like you weren't allowed the space to really gravitate to this, like given the time and space that you needed for however long you needed it for it, like you weren't gifted that. You had to change, and like it hurts me to hear that, like how quickly you had to change. Like I'm gonna give myself 1 minute to cry and sob about this terrible thing, and then now I have to go talk to these people who like have to watch out for their emotions and have to be in a space where they're falling apart, or have to be put myself in a space in which, you know, giving them that support, even though like we're all there supposed to be supporting you, and yet, you know, you putting yourself in that, like how were you able to navigate that, being able to like support other people on a decision that's like on information that like it's already been made, you know? How did you do that?
I think did it fucking sucked.
But it doesn't I feel like it entails the amount of like strength that like you have within yourself that
No, it does. It does. Like I know like not everyone can do that. But also like there are things that we had that, I mean, honestly, out of that entire thing, you haven't even heard like the craziest part of that, right? Like yeah, it was super shitty, and I absolutely hated it. But that is a trait that's for some reason instilled in me. And I'm able to do that. But I still hold that anger, right? Like I literally remember, like at UCSF, there's you have the waiting room, and there's this massive hallway that leads directly into the ICU unit that has these big doors that open and close. So when you open, it's like this grand opening of whoever's walking out and whoever's walking in.
Open,
and it's slow. So every time I would be in that room with Jorge, imagine being in the room with your husband who's literally, you're having your last moments with him, right? And someone knocks on the door and says, oh, blah, blah, blah is here to see him now, right? Constantly, right? Oh, blah, blah, blah here's now. This person's here now. This person's here now. Now I have to greet this fucking person, right? But also you took my space, right? You took my time. Did I give it? Yes. Did you take it? Yes, right? It goes both ways. And then I now have to walk out these doors in this very slow grand opening, and I'm fucking not showered in 3 days. I'm like the worst I've ever looked in my fucking life. I'm completely destroyed, you know? And there's 50 people just watching me fucking walk out of there. And like, and all the things in my head, I'm like, I know what they're thinking, right? Oh my God, I don't know how she's doing it. Right? All the fucking like,
oh, she's
narratives.
so strong.
Oh, she's so strong. Right? Oh, I feel so bad. Right?
I don't know what I would do. This is awkward.
I don't know. Yeah. Oh, totally. Don't make contact. Make eye contact. Right? Let me hold you, or hold me. Right? It's like
so awkward.
It's awkward. And I don't want to be on display for other people. Right? Like how fucked up is that? Like not like, it's just fucked up.
Of having to put yourself in that position.
That the entire situation. Right? Like.
But I think like the thing about it is, I know for many people, we have never been educated in what to do in situations like that.
No,
You know,
you're
in
not.
social situations like that, they always talk about, okay, dinner conversations,
Yeah.
you know, like, what do you talk about when you
Yeah.
greet someone? How do you greet them? But like, no, what do you do when you're in a hospital and you got 50 people there and you're people who you see once every blue moon all of a sudden come crawling out of the woodwork saying, I would like to say my goodbyes. Like, how do you approach that kind of conversation? How are you supposed to make small talks and then expect to acknowledge them?
Yeah.
You know, in this final hour situation thing, expect to have conversations and check-ins.
My suggestion to that is if you have sad feelings, don't express that to the person who's directly affected. Like if you have emotions that are emotions, obviously let them out.
Yeah.
Tell them to other people who are not directly, right? Talk to your husband about it, right? Because he's still fucking there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Talk to, sorry. Fucking use that resource.
Yeah.
Talk to them about it, right?
Yeah.
Who did you come with? Talk to them about it. Share your emotions with them. Don't burden the person who's already fucking like deep in that fucking dark pit with your emotions.
Yeah.
Don't bring a baggage of, oh, I'm so sorry about this. I wish we would have gotten better. Like we would have mended things.
Yeah.
You're dead to me now. Right?
Yeah.
Like
That's right.
don't bring up, like your emotions are yours to keep. I'm dealing with mine in a way that you can't even fucking fathom.
That's right.
Keep your emotions to yourself or to your partner or your friends who are there, but not the people who are directly impacted.
Yeah.
And like I had Jorge's old coworkers who we love to death. They literally filled up an ice chest full of food, got toys for Leo and Natalie, and just brought it right in because they knew there were so many of us who were there every single day, every fucking minute. And they provided without having to put their sadness on me, and making sure that I was taken care of and everyone was taken care of, right? Like that's how you show up, right?
Yeah.
You make sure that they have water or that they're fed, but you don't have to ask them directly.
Yeah.
You go to like their main people, which was you, my sister, my in-laws, right? And you say, hey, yeah, she ate today.
Yeah.
No, here's this.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I brought this hamburger. So make sure she eats that, right? But like, don't do it to that person. Like,
I remember, I mean, as a witness of it, sitting back and watching and also supporting it, I remember those types of people coming in. I remember sharing my number with people to making sure like, hey, I'm a target. What do we need? And I say X, Y, and Z. And I also remember people in relationship that came into the hospital that was like, we have not seen you in years. Where have you been? And now you're here. And now you're, because of this huge traumatic event, you're here to atone for the sins that you have caused in previous years. You know, like because of like how severe this is, you want forgiveness, you want peace, you want clarity. At this hour, no, you don't get peace.
You don't fucking
you don't get it from me.
Exactly,
you do not get peace from me.
You're burning in hell now.
You don't get clarity from me. I don't have clarity of this right now. Like how dare you ask for my forgiveness at this time? Like for me, when I saw that, I was like, the fuck she said.
Seriously. Which crazy because like I came into my power and was like, we're done. Like for eternity, it doesn't bother me anymore. Right? Like, when you get, it's like you get in a fight with someone and you're like, I'm done with them, you know, and then they die and you're like, why, you know?
No. Atone for it now.
Yeah,
like,
do it now.
Do it
for
now.
God's sake.
Don't
like,
wait.
Why are you gonna? And then you're gonna feel that. Like, and then you're gonna sob in my arms while I literally just said goodbye to my husband for the last time. Right?
Yeah.
Like there are things you do. There are things you don't do.
Yep.
Putting your baggage or emotional feelings onto someone who's completely depleted and in the worst moment of their life. That's not okay.
No. And nope. And you are in our books of goodbye.
It is. It very much is. And that's okay.
Yeah. I think one of the also is really interesting we talk about is the days after having and witnessing these people and their stories and then coming through of it the quiet moments at the end, towards late in the night, you know, like during the day, yeah, hustle and bustle, like so many people from your engagement parties and weddings and all these big events where like, I've seen your face, I know you're related or something. And then as the day progressed and went down, the party went smaller and smaller. And I think that's for me what was the most important, those hours in which the most important people in his life and the people that he impacted on a daily basis or he communicated with or you relied on, those people were there late into the night.
Yeah, they were. And it was so like when we first got there, like the first 2 nights, we literally all slept in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Right.
It transformed into a giant bed.
Into a giant bed. Literally, it was 2 chairs put together, and now you have a bed. It was a chair, and here's a side table that I'm now sleeping on, right?
And a couple blankets stacked up.
And then a couple blankets, and then morning came, and you cleaned up the place.
Yeah.
But like in the evening, it would be his mother by his bedside holding his hand, sleeping next to or staying next to him, and then she would rotate out, and then I would go and be with him, and he was never alone. Always these rotations. And then eventually family just was like, okay, we need to find a hotel. So my family got like 3 hotel rooms for like all like 20 of us, and people would rotate in and out to shower, to sleep on a bed for 4 hours. And like that's a way of showing up, right? Of okay, like we're here for a few days, we don't know how long this is gonna last because we didn't. So let's make sure, okay, it's been like 3 days, we need showers, we need X, Y, and Z, someone needs a bed. And I remember like it was like day 3, and I'd finally been convinced, like, okay, I'm gonna go for a little bit, and it wasn't even that long, just to go shower and change my clothes. I didn't have clothes. You had gone to Target, and you had bought me new pants and underwear and bra and clothes to put on my body. Another way of showing up for a person, right? Said absolutely nothing. A toothbrush, you know. And I remember getting into the hotel room, and everyone was like, a bunch of people are in one, a bunch of people were in another, but there was one that was just for me in that moment. And it was the first time of just being like alone, you know, from everybody. And I remember my sister was there, and I'd showered, and like you'd think I was just gonna like just collapse on the floor and just sob and stay there, and it was just so like done and drained that I was just like slowly showering my body, like again, like a zombie, like almost numb, like just so like zoned out, not sure what's happening anymore, you know. And I finally get clothes on, and the first time in like 3 days I lay on a bed, and my sister's there, and we just kind of lock eyes, and then we just like start crying, you know, and not like the crazy sobbing, hyperventilating cries that I'll do by myself, you know, just but like a release that I needed. Of like, without even words, but of like knowing like this is horrible, you know. But I didn't go back to sleep. I literally just went right back to the hospital.
I think your body in some way knew like, no, this is not rest time.
It wasn't rest time. It was the clock is ticking, and we're about to run out. And I can choose to be in this bed, or I can choose to be holding his hand and to have Leo. And we would read the Pout Pout book. And he'd be on my lap. And I remember taking Leo in for the first time, and him, you know, for him to see his dad. And he was not even 1.5. He didn't really have a whole lot of words. But the moment we went in there and he saw his dad, you could tell on his face that he knew something wasn't right. And he like kind of got like this scrunched face of like this is weird. And I kind of had to explain in like basic terms what was happening. Daddy's sick, right? But we would like sit and read the book, and we would hold his hand, and he, you know, he'd have a couple minutes, and then I'd let him go and play, right? Because that's what he should be doing.
That's,
you know.
what a little 1-year-old should be doing.
What a 1-year-old should be doing.
Yeah. I remember that moment. We were recording because we wanted to document for Leo, for you, that moment of that, like, just that, the last bits of things.
The last of it.
And like, I'm holding my camera, but I feel like it's like shaking camera because everyone was just like holding our breath, trying to understand. And I think at one point Soledad was holding Leo and carrying him in, and like, Leo having that heartbreaking realization that, like, he said dada, you know, and then like no reaction from that. No response. And that's not Jorge. I'm like Jorge was larger than life when it came to like becoming a father for Leo. He was just like, if Leo needed something, Jorge was just like, boom, like, I'm here, biggest smile, like, that's the life, that's my life right here. And I think you can see it in that moment, like Leo realizing, I didn't get that response. I normally do. I can say dada and then like boom, like reaction, right? But not getting that. And I think for all of us, like, that's when I knew my heart literally just fucking broke. Just broke, because you just like, that's what we were all hoping. That we were all hoping, if we just say your name, if we just say another prayer, that like a monitor would beep differently, something else would just, the doctors would be like, oh, look, okay, now let's get things moving, you know? And like, not having that reaction. So it's just, like being in that moment, just fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, there are 1,000 moments of heartbreak, you know. I mean, it's just like it is incredibly unfair. And even as we talk about it, it doesn't even reach the surface of the amount of pain and devastation and all of that, like, you know, and like, we would have the amount of times that we had priests in there praying over him and doing it's the last rite.
Right? The last
rite.
The pastor.
At some point, I think it was like 3 or 4 times where he had his last rite, you know?
Well, I mean, I can attest to that story. Because I got there and they were like, we need a priest. Does anyone know a priest? And I knew my pastor, who was at St. Joseph, had moved to San Francisco and was the pastor at St. Francis there. And I was like, I have this number. I'm going to call. I haven't called it in a while. I literally called him and I was like, hey, because we were good family friends. He would come over to Sunday dinners with our family growing up and stuff. I was like, hey, I know you're in San Francisco. I know it's like a Thursday night or Friday morning. I need you. I need you here. And then he was like, okay. And then from San Francisco, drove across to UCSF. He's like, are you in UCSF? Yes. Came, met the family, and prayed and gave last rites. And we were like, we don't know when, where, how long, like all of these. And then he's like, just call me, just text me if you need someone back here, if you need someone here. And then like, I remember a couple of times we're like, hey, we need you back. Like this, like they just, when like Soledad was, I mean, when we're all religious and believing and having this faith, we needed a guidance of that. We needed a pastor there to guide us through this rites and rituals and prayers. And
I remember, so he was the last one to do it. And we had all kind of went into the room, his parents, his siblings, and then myself and Leo. And we had done this thing that we have done already 3 times, but we were doing it again, right? And it had completed, and it was like the first time where I was like, okay, that's it. Like, we're done. That it felt right, and I knew that, like, now we're going to work on transitioning,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, before that, we had like a really awful experience.
Not all religious people are best suited for this.
No,
No.
they're not.
Yeah. No. I don't even know what to call her.
She was called a chaplain. So before we got a priest, we
got a
asked for
real priest.
They gave us a chaplain. I thought, I'll take whatever I can get because I need God on my side. And then I realized we do not take whatever we can get.
No.
No. And not everybody should have that job.
No. And it was awful. She came in at just an awful time. Timing could not have been worse. I think we had just gotten the devastating news of like, I'm not sure what's going to be happening. We're just going to wait. It's a waiting game right now.
Yeah.
So we're all sitting in this waiting room in chairs in a
like
giant circle. People. We're all just sitting there and just hearing this magnitude news of like, now it's a waiting game. And here she comes walking in thinking all rainbows and sunshine. Comes walking in, sits down. Well, I think sits next to you.
She literally sits on the floor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's right. And she's like, everyone, take a deep breath in with me.
Well, we said we wanted a rosary. We wanted a prayer.
Yeah,
and this woman
like a Catholic thing.
We're moving on to meditation, but they're not the same thing.
No.
Prayer and meditation are not the same thing.
No, yeah, she was like...
She says, okay.
After hearing all this...
She's like my mother-in-law's hand, by the way.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is a room filled with fucking Mexican people who are all Catholic and half only speak Spanish.
Yeah.
And my poor mother-in-law right here. And she's like, okay, go ahead and take a deep breath.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now just want you to sit and I want you to feel your buttocks.
That's right. That's right. I looked around and
like, locked eyes with Leona, and I was like, the fuck
she just said.
I was like, well, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
And she's like, I just want you to feel the earth in your anus.
The movement, just become one with your body. And I was just like...
I'm literally sitting there like... And the rage, like, I just was filled with rage. Like, if I could shoot lasers out of my eyes, she would have been
the first target.
And then I have Leona, my sister, next to me, and then they both immediately turn over, and I think Leona's like, or one of them was like, which one
Summer
was
pair.
Like, do I kick her out?
Yeah.
Do I kick her ass out?
Yeah, we were like, do we do this?
I was
like,
yeah.
And Tasha and I are like, yes, she should.
And one more second, and she said some ridiculous hippie
stupid
San Francisco
shit.
And I looked at him like, get her out. Get her out.
Get the fuck out. Somebody get her out. Yeah.
And then somebody's sister literally just like jets her, and as she's trying to do her meditation shit, she's like, come, we need to talk. And then Leona's like,
okay, everyone, we're gonna
pray
now. Do a rosary like we had said. So we started with like Our Father and Hail Marys and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is what we are requesting.
Yes, that's what we fucking wanted.
That's all we wanted.
Was a rosary.
And we prayed.
She did an amazing job. I actually was kind of blown away.
I was so vulnerable and so nervous.
It was crazy.
Because I knew like what that space was. I also knew like I don't speak Spanish. But I knew that if I started a prayer, they all knew what I was talking. They're all gonna finish it. Yeah. And they all knew what direction we were going. They knew that Catholics know the response. Spanish, Italian, Latin. Whatever it is. We know the rosary. Okay,
same words.
Do not question us on our rosaries. Yeah. And it really, I think, in that moment, I think that attributes back to when I was talking to Soledad on her bed. Aww, you know, and like for me, that was that connection where I was like, I remember starting that rosary and then like doing that Hail Mary with her was just like so healing for us both because of the language barrier and because like we are part of yours and Jorge's life. Like doing the prayer together was just like, it was. That's all I could have asked for. Yeah. You know? So, please listen to you know, when they're requesting something, please listen to them.
Yeah. We got her banned.
Yeah, we did. No, seriously. Then the next person that came in was like, hey, is everything okay? And we're like, that girl? No,
Never
don't.
again.
She is not allowed on this floor. Like, I don't ever want to see her again.
And then we never did.
And we never did. And that was good.
Yeah. But it was also one of those moments of like, looking back, I'm like, Jorge would have laughed his ass off. Like, if he's like, I imagine like him in heaven, he's just watching over us. It's a shitty moment, right? But he's like, I'm going to put a little humor there for him. You know? And then
they're in San Francisco.
Serious moment. Yeah, seriously. We get the hippiest freaking chaplain in the world telling us to fill our buttocks.
Yeah.
You know, and it was something that like, I'm like, that's a little whisper from him, you know?
Yeah. Putting his little 2 cents in.
Let's make him like laugh or forget for a moment what's happening.
Yeah.
And stick all our vengeance on this fucking person.
Yeah, exactly. Never again, chaplain.
But that's why I felt so amazing to have Liana bring in the right person for me. And I got to meet with him before, and I got to have I got to do my I'm losing my words, but
sacrament.
Confess my sins, my sacrament, and then we got to finish with Jorge's, and it felt very peaceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also I knew like that was my purpose for there to bring in my, like, I knew I was there to solve these things and be a part of like the solution of whatever resemblance of control I can have, as bring in people that was best suited for this time and this space. And like, it was, religion was huge for Jorge, you know, being like having those sacraments, and not only just for Jorge, but also for his family, his parents, like they needed that. They needed that acknowledgement that like wherever he was going, God is going to be there. Yeah. And they needed that assurance.
Yeah. I did too. And I think that's why I was like, okay, we're going to do it again. Okay, a third time. Let's keep going. And I think at one point Isaac's like, I think it's enough, Maria.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's good.
Yeah. I think he is definitely going to heaven now.
Yeah, seriously.
He's has all his rites and sacraments were in. Yeah. But I think that was important. I think doing that multiple times allowed their bodies and their brains to really understand the magnitude, like what was happening as well.
It did. It was.
And I think making that process, but like that fourth and fifth day, what was that like for everyone? What I mean, like that, like coming to this realization.
It was not easy. So we got to a point where we were all in a room, and the doctors they came in. The entire team, literally was like 5 of them, came in to have a conversation with us. Were you there for that?
No, because that was for just an immediate.
It ended up being like 20 people there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I remember actually. Yes, I was. Yeah.
It wasn't a pretty moment.
No, it wasn't.
No.
That was not a transition.
That was another moment of like, there's a lot of people in this room that I wish weren't in here.
Yeah.
Not that because I didn't appreciate or love them, but because when it was a moment of them sitting down and finally saying, we're done. Yeah. Right? There's nothing that we can do. He's not going to survive. Mm-hmm. It's time to say goodbyes.
Yeah. And a different conversation was going to be
had. And a different conversation was going to be had, exactly, of like, so how do you say goodbye, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, I had not come to terms with it, but I was processing it better. But when they had come in, it was very much like another moment of, I don't understand what you're saying here. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they would try to repeat it or say it in a different way, and we're so, like, gentle and caring. Mm-hmm. But it was the point where, like, I'm literally sitting there, the room is filled with people, the doctors are talking to me, everyone is watching me, right, as I'm being told
this news,
right? Yeah. Your husband is dead. Mm-hmm. It's time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
His wife, what the fuck do you say to that, right? And for me, it was, I just remember just like being really, like, I needed him to say, so I'm saying it as if he said it like that. I needed him to say, your husband is dead, and they weren't saying that. And that was my problem. You need to be 100% crystal clear with me. Otherwise, there is that linger of hope that I will have.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing that. I remember literally looking at them, and like, for me, I felt like I had screamed it at them. But I remember being a version of me that I didn't like.
Yeah.
But I said, you need to fucking tell me that he's dead, right? Like, you need to fucking say that. And I remember like their bodies just kind of like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
And then they had to say it in the way that I was going to accept it. Otherwise, I would have fought,
Yeah.
right? And I needed them to give me no reason to fight anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what led to what's called there's a brain death exam. Yeah, and I didn't want to do that because I knew what it was going to entail, and I knew that it was going to hurt me so much more. But his family wanted to do it because that was their way of knowing he's gone, right?
Their last straw.
Yeah, and so we were doing that to know that, and then to proceed with organ donation.
Yeah.
So essentially, what had happened was we said we wanted to do that. They had done it without us, without even talking to us, and then came back and spoke to me and said that he passed with flying colors. And I told them, you have to do it in front of us. You need to do it again. You need to do it in front of us because his family's not going to believe that. So then we had them do it a second time. And it was his brothers and his parents and then myself. And basically they go through, you're in the room with them, and they go through certain points to show you that, basically to prove that he's dead.
Yeah.
Right? So they will open up his eyes, right, while you're standing next to him, and put light in his eyes to make sure that they're not dilating, right? They will poke, do certain things to certain areas to show that he doesn't have reflexes.
Yeah, no nerve response.
No nerve response. It's like, in my opinion, it's also really hard. Like, it's like, okay, now you're gonna sit here and I'm gonna prove that he's dead, right? Like, imagine that, right? It's like, imagine
do all these things.
I died, and then you're like, now you're gonna sit here and watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna poke and prod and do all these things.
It's awful. And so, like, for me, like, I was having a really hard time with it. I don't want to fucking see that.
Yeah.
But that's my husband, so I'm going to make myself be in that position, right? And then when they took him off the ventilator, and you see the chest to go down, and like he's not breathing, I lost my shit. Like, I literally just like fucking ran out of there, fucking got to the closest wall that was the closest like space of like, I just need somewhere to like lose my shit, sobbed, just fucking I couldn't. And their nurses just kind of ran over to me and were just like holding me as I just was like fucking pouring fucking tears out. And like, there's no privacy. It is literally a big giant ICU area, and I'm fucking in this moment in front of everybody, and then have to like, okay, here again, I'm snapping out of that, collecting myself so I can walk back in and finish this with their family, right? Like, there are moments that I will never forget. That's one of those moments of like, you just took everything from me, and you had to sit there and watch you do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hated that. Jeez. And it's not easy to pass a brain death exam. It's actually very, very hard. he got a perfect score. Like, perfect. Yeah. So then we did organ donation.
And is that something that was like proven on the license plate? Is that how, or is that something they requested from you as his wife?
Neither. For organ donation.
Yeah.
It was. I thought it was you and Natasha said, "Hey, did you think about these options?"
Well, we had mentioned it. Yes.
That's literally what inspired it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but we didn't, because you know sometimes on license it says like organ donor, like the little pink dot.
I had known that was his preference.
Yeah.
I just had it. My brain wasn't functioning enough to actually talk through that.
Yeah, I know. And Tasha and I, we spent quite a lot of time together there with each other and having these conversations of, you know, what thoughts and ideas about what's going to be happening next, because our brains were able to process that, and making sure like his last memory, his last act, and what he was able to do and gift. And I think we had talked about that and mentioned it to the doctor, and the doctor brought it up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it went organically as best as it could at that time. You know.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. How do you have that kind of conversation of telling? Because I knew I couldn't go up to you and be like, "Hey, let's have a conversation about what you want to do with your husband." You know, like that was not at that time. But I knew also it needed to come from a person who had the most amount of training and the most knowledge about it.
Yeah.
So Tasha, with her history of her training, and then the doctors and nurses and stuff like that, you know, and making sure that had lasting impact of it.
Yeah.
And which it did. I mean, as a result of that idea, it saved lives.
It did. It did save lives, and I'm sure on another episode we'll talk about the specifics, because we actually got to find out who, not by name, but the age, the gender, and what they received. Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that happened. And then
Organ donation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the organ donation, UCSF doesn't allow like honor walks. But we actually fought them pretty hard on that.
So glad you did.
Yeah, and so they actually allowed us to do an honor walk, which is where family are allowed to fill the halls, and the individual is brought through the hall and into the OR. And yeah, it was really beautiful. Leo, myself, Jorge's brothers, Jorge's parents were all wearing their soccer jerseys. And I think Leo was even wearing, he was wearing his dad's, right? Because we didn't have anything. So we put that on him, and I was wearing his dad's sweater. And he had his entire soccer boys, 16-year-old boys, lining the hallway with family and friends. Yeah, Leo and we were standing behind, and they were pushing him through the halls, which again is like this really beautiful thing, but it's also really fucking devastating, right? Like, I'm watching these 16-year-old boys see their coach, who doesn't look like their coach anymore. I mean, he had brain surgery, he had his hair buzzed off, right? Like, he didn't look like himself anymore, and it's devastating alone to see that. And then to be a 16-year-old boy watching this, you know, is devastating. And to watch them, and then to watch these people watch me as I hold my son as we're walking to go say goodbye for the very last time.
And seeing him.
It's like there's so many perspectives I can see, and they all break my heart. It
reminds me, have you heard of that Amy Grant song? Amy Grant's song talks about her son having to do this kind of very similar thing of like his best friend, it's like this, where they're a 16-year-old and he had to bury his best friend due to a traumatic event that had happened. And how she witnessed from a mom's perspective how these two young boys and now this one man. Like, for me, when I saw that visual and saw those witnessing those kids, it reminded me of them, like these boys witnessing this event, and now they're gonna walk out of this room as man because
forever changed.
Forever changed by this event.
Forever changed by this event. They were there when it happened. They were there when their aneurysm hit. And they are now there for the last goodbye, saying their last goodbyes. So it's so painful to see that. And then we get to the elevator, and that's where his brothers say goodbye. I have Leo say goodbye to his dad for the last time. I hand Leo off, and Jorge's parents and I go into the elevator with him and go down to the OR. And that they open the OR, doors, and you have an entire team of people there ready.
They're waiting.
To harvest the organs, right? Like they're waiting, and you have people in the hospital already who are waiting for those organs, And they're looking at us, and Jorge's parents say goodbye, and I'm like saying my goodbye, and I'm realizing it is the goodbye. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the last goodbye. And I remember hugging him and telling him I love him, and I gave him a kiss, and I remember like pulling back, and like I didn't want to walk away, right? Like, there's that urge of like, I want to cling to you forever. I want to give you another kiss. Like, I don't want to leave. But being forced to. Yeah. And I remember, walking away, and he goes into the OR room, and they had actually asked me, basically they said that when you donate organs, you can write the OR team a letter that they then read before they take the organs, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up doing that, which again is back to the whole, how the fuck do you write something like this when you're so depleted and not okay?
Yeah.
And yet I was still able to like channel it. So like I have it here, so I'll read it. I said, "Dear transplant team, lies before you is the man handcrafted by God and created to heal others. His name is Jorge Leonardo Contreras. He is wildly romantic, fiercely loyal, and will give everything he has to help those around him. Today, I, Jorge's wife, released my most prized love to you. I pray that you value and care for his body as I would do for him. Be gentle, give thanks for his tribute to our recipients, and protect his gifts. I am trusting you with my everything." It is truly rare to make such an impact on the world at only the age of 30, but my husband did just that. I pray that each recipient receives their gifts with a sprinkle of the love, kindness, compassion, and leadership that built the legacy he has today. For a mere sprinkle of who Jorge is will certainly change our world. It is our hope that his legacy of impacting and helping others will continue through each recipient and every life-saving medical worker in the OR today. And for my husband, because of you, I have felt more love in 10 years than most people will have felt in a lifetime. You are the air that I breathe, and now I pray for the courage to learn to breathe in a world that does not have you in it. No better husband, father, son, brother, or coach exists than you. Together we will find peace knowing you are in heaven, watching over us and your baby boy. For it is this moment that we can begin to start making peace. It is this moment that we continue your legacy. We love you. Wow. So I read that, and then I walked right back into that elevator and walked right back to that whole crowd of people who just watched him, said their goodbyes. And I remember getting up there and realizing I'm surrounded by like 15, they're 16-year-old boys. I'm surrounded by these little boys who have just experienced the most devastating thing in their life. And instead of just running off and crying or sobbing in front of everyone or getting into how I felt, which was just complete devastation, I remember going up to them and literally was like, I have something to say. And I gave a speech in front of everybody, and it was directly to the boys, because I wanted them to know that even though it was so painful, what they were experiencing and what they saw, it was also incredibly beautiful that he could save these other people's lives, right? That his body was then going to be used to help other people, and for them to know like they were not alone, and that they can talk about what they were feeling, and they can talk to their parents, and they can that they were gonna be okay, and that they were loved, and that everyone was gonna get through it, and we can get through it together. And that was literally my response of, I said goodbye to my husband, but there's a piece of me that I want to make sure these boys are gonna be okay. And that was my way of being like, I love you guys. He loved you, right? This doesn't have to be, this is painful, but it still can be beautiful too.
Yeah.
And that was my message to them.
Yeah. And what a gift and strength to be able to recognize that.
Yeah.
Like that just says a magnitude about you and who you are, and like ensuring that his legacy, that this was the final word of it. And like that today is not the end all be all for them. They are his legacy. They need to go live and express their pain and talk about it. And I mean, to do that, to be able to like walk away from that OR, not be completely devastated, that's just fuck.
It's fucked.
Yeah.
But I said goodbye. I grabbed my son, and we got in a car, and we left. We went home.
And then
Without his dad.
jeez. And then started a new.
And we started a new chapter.
New chapter.
Yeah.
Years in the making.
Yep.
Yep.
Every day we have courage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do. And look what you've done and made from it.
I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. He's a happy boy.
Yes.
Yeah. And speaking as your friend and witnessing from it, like you have flourished in the harshest of circumstances.
Yeah.
And to be able to heal yourself like that. Because I mean, even though it takes 2 years in the making to tell a story like that, like that was 2 years of working on it. And it'd be 2 more years of working on it.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for not leaving me
Oh my God.
in the dark.
Screw it. I'm done. I'm out of here.
5 minutes, we're out. Yeah.
No, that's what friends are for. Yeah. I love you too.
Longest episode yet.
Thanks for staying with us. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Have courage.
Thanks for tuning into Courage on the Rocks.
Until next time, hold on to your courage, and we'll see you soon. Cheers!